My name is Natalie, and I am a 33-year-old woman living alone in a small but cozy apartment. It's a space that truly feels like mine, with bookshelves filled with novels I've collected over the years and a little balcony where I often sit to watch the city lights. It's peaceful here, but today, my mind is anything but calm. I sit at my dining table, staring at my phone as it vibrates insistently. The screen lights up with the name I both love and dread seeing at this moment, Liam. He's my fiancé, the man I want to spend my life with, yet I can't bring myself to answer. I know exactly why he's calling. He wants to talk about meeting my parents. Just thinking about it makes my stomach twist into knots. The phone goes to voicemail, and his familiar, warm voice fills the air. Hey, Natalie. Just checking in. We really should plan on meeting your folks soon. Call me back, okay? I let out a deep sigh and glance around my apartment, my safe haven. The walls are lined with books, little reminders of the comfort I found in stories when real life was too difficult. I have built a world here where I can breathe, away from the past that still haunts me. My childhood was not easy. When I was just 4 years old, my father left. I still remember standing in the doorway, watching him walk away with his suitcase. He never looked back. After that, everything changed. My mother, once warm and caring, became distant and cold. She was always on edge, quick to snap at me over the smallest things. I became the target of her frustration, the one who bore the weight of her unhappiness. 3 years later, she remarried. My stepfather, Vincent, was different. He was kind, patient, and tried to create a sense of normalcy in our fractured family. But my mother's attention had already shifted elsewhere, to my younger half-sister, Alice. The golden child. She was the one who received all of Mom's love and affection, while I was left in the shadows, feeling invisible. The phone rings again, snapping me out of my thoughts. It's Liam, once more. This time, I pick up. Hey, Liam, I say, forcing a cheerful tone. Natalie, I've been trying to reach you. So, when can we plan to meet your parents? His voice is filled with excitement, completely unaware of the dread pooling in my chest. I'm not sure, Liam. It's complicated, I say hesitantly, twirling a pen between my fingers. What's complicated? It's just dinner, Natalie. I really want to meet the people who raised my incredible fiancé, he says earnestly. I let out a small, forced laugh. You wouldn't say that if you knew my mom. She's a lot to handle. Liam pauses before speaking again, his voice softer. Is everything okay, Natalie? You know you can tell me anything. I take a deep breath, debating how much to say. It's just that my mom and I don't really have the best relationship. She's always been very critical of me. It's nothing like your family. Liam is quiet for a moment, then replies with gentle reassurance. I'm here for you, Natalie. We'll figure this out together. Maybe it's time to face this, you know. I know he's right, but the thought of exposing him to my mother's sharp tongue and endless judgment makes me feel sick. Yeah, maybe, I say, though I don't really mean it. Let's talk about it later. I need some time to think. Okay, he says, his voice filled with understanding. I love you, you know that, right? I know, Liam. I love you too. After hanging up, my mind drifts back to my childhood. The memories are vivid, painful, and impossible to ignore. I remember being 6 years old, sitting at the kitchen table, struggling with my homework. My mother was pacing the room, her face twisted with stress. I tapped my pencil absent-mindedly against the table, lost in thought. Natalie, can't you see I'm busy? Stop making that noise, she snapped suddenly, her voice sharp and irritated. Startled, I quickly mumbled, sorry, Mom, and tried to make myself smaller. Things only got worse when Alice was born. Mom's love, once distant, became entirely unreachable. She had a new focus, a child she actually wanted. I became an afterthought. One night, I overheard a conversation between my mom and Vincent. I stood quietly behind the doorway, heart pounding. She's just so difficult, Vincent. Nothing like Alice. I don't know what to do with her, my mother said, exasperated. Vincent, ever patient, tried to reason with her. She's just a kid, Megan. She needs your love, not your disappointment. But my mother wasn't interested in reasoning. She reminds me too much of him, she muttered bitterly. I didn't need to ask who him was. She meant my father. That night, I cried myself to sleep, fully understanding for the first time that I was never going to be enough for her. As I grew older, her criticisms became sharper. Nothing I did was right. Don't slouch. That outfit makes you look sloppy. Why can't you be more like Alice? By the time I was a teenager, I had learned to expect disappointment. When I got good grades, it wasn't enough. When I tried to dress nicely, I was trying too hard. No matter what I did, I could never win her approval. The first time I introduced a boyfriend to my family, it ended in disaster. Bruce was kind and sweet, and I was hopeful. But the moment he stepped into my childhood home, I knew I had made a mistake. So, Bruce, what are you studying? My mother asked as she passed the salad. Engineering, he replied with a smile. I want to work in renewable energy. That's ambitious, she said with a tight-lipped smile. Hopefully, you're not biting off more than you can chew, like some people. Her eyes flickered to me. The jab was obvious, cutting deep despite its casual tone. Bruce squeezed my hand under the table, trying to offer silent comfort. But the damage was done. The night ended awkwardly, and it wasn't long before Bruce and I drifted apart. Years later, I met Liam. He was different, patient, kind, and understanding. Yet, despite all of his love, I still carried the scars of my past. Now, as I sit in my apartment, faced with the reality of introducing him to my mother, I feel paralyzed by fear. The wounds are still raw, and the thought of exposing Liam to the woman who never saw my worth terrifies me. But maybe, just maybe, it's time to face it. As I sat at the dinner table, a familiar sense of unease settled over me. It was always like this, tense and uncomfortable, with my mother's sharp words cutting through the conversation. Throughout the meal, she switched between subtly putting me down and excessively praising my younger sister, Alice, even though Alice wasn't even there. It was as if she was making a point, emphasizing my shortcomings while elevating Alice to an almost saintly level. Between her usual remarks, she would occasionally shift the conversation toward Liam, my boyfriend, bombarding him with questions about his business, his future aspirations, and his overall success. Each time she did, I could see that look in her eyes, a cold, calculating glint that made my stomach twist. She wasn't just making conversation, she was assessing him, not as a person but as a potential asset. It was a look I had seen before, and I hated it. By the time dinner was over, I felt both relieved and frustrated. As we left my mother's house and made our way back home, the car was filled with an uncomfortable silence. I was still processing the evening when Liam finally spoke up. Your mom seems really interested in my business, a little too interested, don't you think? I sighed, feeling emotionally drained. Yeah, she has a habit of evaluating people like their investments. I'm sorry, Liam, it's just the way she is. Liam reached over and gently squeezed my hand, his expression reassuring. We're in this together, Natalie, don't forget that. The next morning, still feeling the weight of my mother's words, we were caught off guard when Liam's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowning at the unknown number. He hesitated for a moment before answering, putting the call on speaker. Hello? There was a brief pause before a voice spoke on the other end. It was faint and slightly muffled, but the words that followed sent a chill down my spine. Liam's expression shifted from curiosity to shock in an instant. Hang on, what did you just say? His voice rose slightly, laced with disbelief. I watched him closely, my own anxiety building as the voice continued. When Liam finally ended the call, he turned to me, his face filled with a mixture of confusion and anger. That was your mom, he said, his voice firm. She just suggested something completely outrageous. My breath caught in my throat. What do you mean? What did she say? Liam took a deep breath before speaking. She wants me to leave you and consider marrying Alice instead. His words hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. She said what? I managed to choke out, my heart pounding. He nodded grimly. She told me you weren't the right one for me and that Alice would be a much better match. She was completely serious. Natalie. I was stunned into silence, my mind struggling to process the betrayal. How could my own mother say something like that? Did she really think so little of me? Liam's jaw tightened. We need to do something about this. This isn't just about us anymore. People need to know what she's really like. A surge of determination replaced my initial shock. We should record her saying it, catch her in the act. Liam nodded in agreement. Let's do it, let's expose her. We spent the rest of the day formulating a plan. Liam would call my mother back and pretend to be interested in her offer while secretly recording the conversation. That evening, we sat in our living room, our phones set up and ready. Liam dialed her number, putting the call on speaker. "Hello, Megan, it's Liam," he said, keeping his voice steady. My mother's voice came through the speaker, unnervingly sweet. "Liam, darling, I was hoping you'd call back. Have you given any thought to what I suggested?" "Yes," Liam replied smoothly. "It's an interesting idea, but I need to understand why you think Natalie isn't right for me." There was a brief pause before she spoke again. "Oh, Liam, you're such a wonderful man. You deserve someone better, someone like Alice. Natalie has always been a bit of a disappointment." Her words cut deep, but I forced myself to stay silent, letting the recording continue. "We should meet and discuss this further," Liam suggested, "maybe over coffee." My mother's voice practically dripped with eagerness. "That sounds perfect, let's arrange a time." After the call ended, I felt a whirlwind of emotions, hurt, anger, betrayal, but there was also a new resolve within me. We had what we needed. Now, it was time to expose her. Over the next few days, we planned our next move. Liam set up a meeting with my mother at a cafe downtown, and I decided to be there too, disguised, so I could witness everything firsthand. On the day of the meeting, I wore a wig and oversized sunglasses, making sure I was completely unrecognizable. I chose a table with a clear view of them, my heart pounding in my chest. Liam arrived first, settling in near the window. A few minutes later, my mother walked in, scanning the room before approaching Liam with a confident smile. "Liam, so good to see you," she said warmly, sitting across from him. "Thanks for meeting me, Megan," Liam replied. "So, about your proposal." My mother leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "I truly believe it's for the best. Natalie isn't suitable for you. Alice is everything Natalie isn't, graceful, charming, and a perfect match." My throat tightened as I listened. Liam cast a quick glance in my direction, giving a subtle nod to let me know the recorder was on. "But why are you so against Natalie?" Liam asked, keeping up his act. My mother sighed heavily, her voice turning almost confessional. "To be honest, I never really wanted Natalie. After her father left, she was just a reminder of all the bad times. Alice is my real daughter, the one I actually care about." I gripped the table, my hands trembling as I processed her words. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut. Liam kept the conversation going just long enough to get everything recorded. After about 20 minutes, my mother left, looking oddly pleased with herself. As soon as she was gone, I removed my disguise and joined Liam, barely holding back tears. "I can't believe she said that," I whispered, my voice shaky. Liam took my hands in his eyes filled with sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Natalie, but now we have proof. What do you want to do with it?" Taking a deep breath, I straightened my shoulders, letting my determination take over. "We expose her, Liam, at the next family gathering. Everyone needs to know the truth." Liam nodded firmly. "Then that's exactly what we'll do." As we left the cafe, I knew there was no turning back. It was time for everyone to see my mother for who she truly was.